Hi, welcome for our webinar this afternoon. Thank you for your attendance. And as others continue to join us, I want to remind you of a couple things. One, you may view the previous Best Practice webinars by logging on to the Lutheran School portal. Click on the National tab, and there will be a drop-down menu with NLSA on it, and you can click on that, and then you'll be able to see the articles and webinars for your viewing on the right-hand column. Secondly, Lutheran School mailings are also available for you on the portal. And thirdly, our next best webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, November 1st, when we will hear St. Paul Lutheran High School's best practices at 12 noon Central Time. Today, the 6th NLSA Exemplary School Best Practice webinar features the practices of the Early Childhood Education Center at Concordia University. This is our first webinar featuring specific practices related to early childhood. As the presentation is made, please type in your questions in the chat box on the right there, and our team will do their best to answer them as they share with us their best practices. Doris and Elizabeth, we welcome them and the presenters team today. Let's begin with prayer. Heavenly Father, bless our time together as we hear how the Early Childhood Education Center at Concordia University in Chicago touches the lives of children and families in ways that are a blessing to so many. Bless the presenters, the early childhood teachers and workers. We pray that all Lutheran schools are instruments of your will, serving you and expanding your kingdom.
Thank you very much, Stu. Welcome to Concordia University's Education Center webinar on best practices. Before I begin, I would really like to thank Rick Richter, who is a member of Concordia University, who's helped us along the way with this PowerPoint and webinar, as well as Perry Braisman, who's helping us today. I'd also like to thank our incredible staff for all of the hard work that they have done this year and last year, and the work that they continue to do in our professional development process. It's amazing what your staff can do when you're given the chance to do that. So welcome.
Hello everyone, Elizabeth Christian.
My name is Doris Knus, and I'm the director here at Concordia University. And with me is Beth Christian. What I'd like to do right now is talk a little bit about what our webinar has in store for you today. What the Early Childhood Center at Concordia University is a laboratory school, and Beth's going to talk a little bit later about what that means. But we do offer care for children. Well, we offer full-time care as well as part-time preschool. We offer a full and part-time kindergarten program as well as an after-school program. We are been moved to the Early Childhood Center here at the Christopher Center 9 years ago. But Beth will talk a little bit about our history, which gives us a huge stand and a huge blueprint from which to work from. Our webinar today actually will talk a little bit about how our Early Childhood Center has been able to embrace best practices, curriculum, and our community with our staff. We'll talk a little bit about our benefits. One of those being that helps us to improve what we already do. It also lets us communicate with our stakeholders and keeps them in line with our research and the standards. And also it helps our university students understand what it takes to become an exemplary school, and for them as pre-service teachers, what it means for them when they come into the classroom. We also have challenges along the way. Because we don't have a congregation to support the work we do here, we do rely on each other as support systems in that faith development. And that's a central part of what we do every day. And we also do that to help support each other in our collaboration times. But we do have to be more intentional in our professional development plans and how we help our teachers develop as well. So our invitation to you on our staff development in the past, focusing on how we've strengthened our curriculum, aligned our curriculum and assessment to our mission, philosophy, and standards, as well as integrating our stakeholders as we share our professional development focus. We do invite you to put questions along the way, and we encourage interaction throughout this webinar. We are in a timely manner, so we will hopefully be able to bring those questions into
Dr.
the
Shirley Morgenthaler saw
discussion.
a need for students at the university that were in an elementary education program to interact with, observe, and learn from children. This began a laboratory school setting. We have grown now and facilitate the education of pre-service, graduate, and postgraduate students in several ways. First, on activities and experiences for students within the university and outside students that come to visit our university with practical experience, and also to become adept at scaffolding and reflection. We're now in the Walter and Maxine Christopher Center for 9 years. This is our new center. We continue to be a laboratory school setting. We now serve about 245 children and over 100 laboratory students. So through all this growth, one challenge for us has been change. We've had a lot of sizable changes, all in the breadth of the diverse families that we serve, the number of children, the lab students, and even a lot, many more staff than we once had. So in order to really maintain it and continually improve our quality with continuing learning and communication. Matthew 18 describes the state of becoming like children, open to learning and to new wonder. And we've really needed to rely on this verse continually to remember this importance for us too, for our staff, and that our journey is going to be continually learning. We've chosen a specific focus for more intentional staff development each year for the last several years. In doing so, it's become imperative to educate parents and community of who we are and what we do.
All right, I'll just keep on going, and hopefully we'll be able to keep on have the sound working on that. The slide you have right in front of you is move one of our polls, the poll number 22, into the chat box so that you guys can take a chance to answer those questions. Thank you. Thanks, Perry. I see. Thank you very much for making this possible. I love this. This looks great. Thank you very much for answering these questions. The reason why I put that question in there is our mission statement is the blueprint for what we do. And we have that visible to our teachers and to our staff. And it's nice to see that a large number of you do have a mission statement that you can utilize. What we also wanted to talk about is the fact that when we take a look at our mission statement, and the slide you see here is basically our mission statement, basically the bullet points of our mission statement down to the 6 different areas. And what we've done with that is we've taken that mission statement and we made it more visible. We made it more living so that we took a look at the areas. We examined them. We talked about what does that mean to be a laboratory school? How do we get those students the experience that they need, as well as how do we have that centered in the gospel of Jesus Christ? Those total growth and development is also part of what we do in
A
our
large
curriculum,
part of
as
what
well
we
as our
do is to
philosophy.
continually
We
create
also want to make a
opportunities for
chance for
students.
university students to
Doris
come
and I
in to
brought in
observe,
3 photos
participate,
here
and
that
evaluate.
really
And how do we
depict
make
what
that
we have
experience
found
the
make
best
an
possible
impact
experience for them?
in
But
training
we also
future
want to
and
support
current
the parents in a
educators.
changing world as well.
First of all, to really help
So
students
when we
understand the
see this
critical
as
importance
a
of
mission
watching
that
children,
can move and can change
observing
and be
where
fluid,
students are
then we can
cognitively,
take a look at it, we
physically,
discuss it,
socially,
we
and
find the
spiritually
areas where that
allows
mission
us a
needs
starting
some help
point,
or where we're really
finding
strong
out where
at
we
that.
must be and where we must go with them in order to join them in the path of from where they are to where it is possible for them to go. Second of all, through listening. Listening helps us focus upon language and assess further development. We can really use this to help develop our assessment. But watching and this is difficult, but it is really in the last photo there's the learning. This was done by an early childhood method student at the university, and she described using different materials and different ways to build the path to learning. And when it falls down, it's important to try something else. And I thought this was an excellent parallel to the path of learning.
All right, there's another poll that I'd like you to take a look at. Perry's going to slide that into the PowerPoint. It talks about professional development meetings. And the question is, do you hold professional development meetings? Are they basically for professional development, or what I usually term as housekeeping meetings, talking about, who's got the playground, how's the bus schedule, what about the food, or do you do both, or do you do neither? So if you could take a minute to fill that poll out. Thank you. Thanks very much for making that information available to us. It gives us a good idea about how do you organize your professional development. And it seems like a large number of people are actually utilizing both those professional development times or your staff in-service times for both the housekeeping meetings, as I call them, or specific staff development focuses. The slide you see in front of you right now is when last year we took a look at our staff and we wanted to just do a new design and helping them to have more ownership of the staff development. In the past, most of our teachers, and we have a team teaching situation, so most of them pretty much kept 2- and 3-year-old teachers would work with each other, 3- and 4-year-old teachers would work with each other. And what we did last year is we took our staff, we took them out of the classroom, and we arranged them into 3 separate support groups, or what we call houses. And we arranged them in ages of the children. So we have our infant, toddlers, our 2- and 3-year-old teachers working together in a house, as well as our part-time preschool, kindergarten, and after-school program in a house, and then our full-day preschool programs in a house. So those are 3 distinct houses that now work together as teams.
When we put them together, we then needed to talk a little bit about how do we work with that collaboration. And there were some benefits and challenges to designing these. One of the benefits, and the benefit still is with us today, is to help give those teachers and staff ownership of the development that we work on. They were the ones that made the questions. They were the ones that figured out some of the solutions to that. One of the other benefits is to get them to talk to other people and to make those connections to the challenge of the designs is how do we get those teachers out of their classrooms to start collaborating with each other. And that was something that Beth and I had to work on as well. But we gave teachers ownership, we gave them encouragement and consistency in addressing those challenges and benefits. And collaboration part is something that's very important to us. The picture you see here is our teachers at one of our in-service meetings in the fall before we open our school again. And we needed to talk a little bit about teams and what does it mean to work on a team. And later on, you'll see a little bit more about some of the ideas that the teachers had come up with when we talked a little bit about those teams. Our staff right now have 3 different opportunities for staff to
in the center of the diagram here,
meetings.
We really
because
have
they're open from 7 to 6. We have teachers coming in at 7. We have
subject of our holders.
some teachers coming in at 8, 8:30, some teachers that come in at 10. So having staff meetings consistently is a little bit more difficult for us.
Staff,
so what we do is we have one once a month. But within that month, also those houses will have house meetings, and then we also have what we call mini meetings, which are small meetings that we put in 45 minutes to an hour once a month. So within a month's time, our staff is getting together 3 times.
At the top, we've got the
Part
constructivist
of that is their focus,
really
part of that is what they lead, and part of it is what Beth and I also
us valuing
lead.
experience,
so helping them, encouraging them to be outside of their classroom, to work together has been a huge benefit to all of us as we continue to do it
reflect and allow
this
new
year.
learning to evolve. And then next, what are best practices? In early childhood education, developmentally appropriate practices is a common term. NAEYC, which is the National Association of the Education of Young Children, highly regards developmentally appropriate practices. Really, children are learning best when they are involved in developmentally appropriate practices. And DAP is really visible in classroom schedules. It's visible in the environments that children are in, specific practices that teachers use, and in the relationships that are within the classrooms. In the last few years, we've really focused a lot more on our standards. And these are standards from NAEYC, from NLSA, from the ISBE, because we try to bring in our early learning standards and the kindergarten standards into everything that we do, and also DCFS. We have a lot of discussions among staff that help us give insight into what it is and how we can do it better with regards to the standards, because the standards also, they're not always a target that we're trying to reach, but it really backs up what we do when we can look at what it is we've been doing, and we look back and across the breadth of all these standards, we're meeting or exceeding the standards. But what this has done is it's increased the amount of engaged learning in classrooms. It's helped us to really be a lot more effective and efficient in utilizing assessment as information to guide learning. And our house systems really have allowed our input. And then finally, we've reworked our curriculum and our assessment so that our skewed curriculum and our portfolio assessment are closely aligned to the standards. When we talk about our skewed curriculum, we're talking about an acronym that each of those letters, S, C, E, W, and D, stand for a different domain or area of children's development. So those areas would be social, spiritual arts, wellness, and discovery. And we have a file that we're going to attach after this slide that is our full curriculum for preschool. It's actually birth through kindergarten. That lists that a little bit more specifically in case anybody would like to look at that. Then we bring portfolios in. Each child in our center has an individual portfolio that is a collection of their work. It's all of child's work to continue planning our curriculum through our assessment.
Also, thanks, Beth. Also, when we went to divide this up, and this chart shows it very clearly, the curriculum, the assessment, the portfolios, it became a huge aha moment for our staff to be able to understand how it all flows together. When we were looking at what's developmentally appropriate, we looked at our standards and our curriculum, it all fit. Instead of just, we already knew we were meeting those standards, but by addressing those and putting it connecting it
down to our, we know
together, the staff really had
it's proved itself time and time again.
Our philosophy that's what we do, and it made it much more fluid, and it just made it flow a little bit more. So this helped them just understand a little bit more about how that all works together, and it was really helpful to them as well.
The things that we do.
I'm also going to
in what children experience,
write down also the SKEWed acronym and the content areas. You do get them in the files that are downloaded as well, but I will type that in for you as well.
Of our center. First of all, at the bottom, you see the philosophy piece. Philosophy is our base. That's the importance, the most important thing, and we are a highly constructivist center. We value the experience, and goals and objectives might be the standards and aligning the standards, what it is that we're really looking at short-term and long-term. Our curriculum approaches. We are more heavily working on project approach this year. We take elements of Reggio Emilia, a lot of Vygotskian theory in our approaches. Classroom management. This would include things like the teacher's schedules. What's happening with parent involvement. And finally, the activity. What is the engaged learning? When you walk into a classroom and see children doing things, are they engaged? And what are they doing? What is the importance of what they're doing? Aligning all those things down to the philosophy has been some really valuable work for our staff in breaking each of those apart and working on what each of those things might look like and why it is that they relate back to that philosophy. Well, Doris and I invited our staff to develop 3 center curriculum nights this past year. And a large part of the purpose of that was to make what happens each day really visible for our families and for our community. Over to the right of this photo, you can see some written things. These were done by the teachers. And so when people would come to these curriculum nights, we invited families, we invited lab students were there to facilitate, but everything was really posted around activities so that parents could really come in and see, what's behind this? Why are you doing this? And the teachers had done all of this on their own. They had researched activities, researched, different aspects of our Skewed curriculum, and written that research down in order to post it. See, excuse me. This next photo, you'll see an example of what was happening during one of our curriculum nights. But we had asked staff to develop a plan that would really share our curriculum and assessment means with everyone, but specifically for teachers, to give the teachers the opportunity to research what they do, represent it, and then support it. So every activity was really being supported and facilitated by teachers, getting really down, getting their hands into things, having lab students do that also. While the teachers were models and guides, we really were able to pull our lab students in as teachers in training and have them do that too, because this is what they're doing every day in the classrooms. And one of the wonderful things about this was that pretty soon we started to see the effect of this in parents. We had parents getting into things, and we were really, really encouraging this, and it really, happened beautifully. Next to the activities, we had portfolios out. So each of these children's portfolios that contain the works that they do during the year is full of their assessment. These were out for parents to also look through during that evening. Having a lot of really hands-in things for families to do together, as well as quiet points where parents could just be with their children quietly and individually, worked out really well to do during our curriculum nights. And over to the right, you'll see a lab student, working at a light table with a child. There was not a lot of difference after our first curriculum night between what teachers did and what our lab students did, because our lab students were so wonderful at picking up what it is that we do and what they see happening in classrooms. And we felt that these were some really great learning experiences for them. But the teachers were able to facilitate activities that were parallel with the daily activities in the classrooms. This gave ownership to the teachers. Doing these also created a lot of leadership and encouraged collaboration, and also allowed a celebration of learning. Curriculum nights were determined by the house staff development groups. So in the fall, we had our initial night. It was an Eric Carle night, and it was based on literacy. But at the same time, we were able to pull in all the different areas of the Skewed curriculum. So I think Doris put up, if you see on the comments, those different areas. It had the aspects of the social spiritual curriculum, our communication arts, our expressive arts, our wellness, and our discovery. In our math and science and language arts, all the academic areas are embedded into this curriculum, but because it is so broad, we can really value a lot of experiences that children have during the day as learning opportunities. Our second evening was based on a book by Ellen Galinsky called Mind in the Making, The 7 Essential Skills Every Child Needs. And that was an evening for teachers to really select, that house group really selected and encouraged other house groups to select activities that help things like coordination and self-regulation, the skills that we see, many children really needing in early childhood experiences. And then our last curriculum night was based on the 5 senses. And again, they all incorporated the different areas of the skewed curriculum. They were supported with written research. The teachers did this through the wall, through writing on the walls. They did this through pamphlets. I think a number of teachers even produced booklets that went along with their areas. And it was fascinating to see what our staff would come up with based on their research. But we were able to utilize the hallways and not areas of the classrooms so that the next morning, classrooms were not messy, that these evenings were a pretty quick cleanup, which was the efficiency of it was really, really important for us to be able to get down. They were facilitated by the teachers and the lab students. Everything included the standards being addressed. It was aligned with our curriculum. And then we were able to document the evenings and put documentation of those evenings and those experiences into children's portfolios after that. One of the most rewarding pieces of curriculum night was seeing the real effects of our work. And here you see no teachers, but you see parents and lab students and children, where the teachers have been now parents have their hands in things, and they're working and communicating with lab students. And this was when we were able to see this teamwork that we had talked about so much. And when teachers come up with words for teams like teaching and encouraging and accepting and modeling and equal responsibility, this was really when we saw the effect of that, and it was a wonderful thing to see. But seeing this in action through parents and lab students, being actively engaged with children, is really what we would call best practices.
I think it was also really interesting for those parents to come into those curriculum nights and finally have an understanding of why we do what we do. It's not so much we have an activity, but there's also a reason for it. There is some theory, there is research, it's based on practices that go back into a number of theorists, and that really gave them an understanding of what it meant to be a play-based program and how important these activities were to children. When we ended up going through our evenings last year, we were very excited about how it was received, and the parents got a lot of feedback from families, and so we knew that we needed to continue doing curriculum nights again this year. And what we wanted to do is we want to take what we do in our professional development meetings, our goals in professional developments, and we want to put that into action. It's great to be able to sit in a meeting and have these ideas, but if we don't go back into our classrooms and implement them, then the meetings have wasted our time.
So we spent some
new professional development and some work on a project approach, which Beth is going to talk about, but we want to see it in action, and so that's what we're going is this time for this year.
We had consultants from Peoria, Illinois, come to work with our staff in improving how long-term investigations and projects can be more fully developed and documented within our center. The project approach really focuses on 3 different phases of learning, and there's a lot of documentation that aligns the children's interests with investigatable topics, benchmarks, and it's very visible in portfolio work. In order to develop 3 evenings this year, we asked our staff to really focus on the projects that they are going to be doing in their classrooms and bring out the work from these long-term investigations as opposed to singular activities that they would develop just for that evening. Bring out what they're doing in their classrooms with these long-term investigations. And so those will be the focus of our curriculum nights this year. We're also asking that everyone adds a diversity dimension to this. And then our 3rd night this year will really be our big culmination event of our second semester investigations. The next 3 slides illuminate a process that we began in the last few years and how we're trying to really tie it into our goals for this year, taking what we've been working on for the last few years and coming back around to it again, reflecting upon it again, to make it mean more for us now. And first of all, we had done a lot of work with breaking down parts or pieces of the classrooms that the teachers, experience challenges or successes with each day. And these were relationships, their schedules, their specific practices, the materials that they would use, and their environments that they would set up. So we brought these back out this year and said, where are our challenges specifically? Now that we've done all this work with these and we've been able to kind of action step a lot of challenges, where are our challenges still? And this was really valuable for us because we were able to articulate such specific challenges that staff would really be able to look at these different things from different perspectives and say, I ran into that. I think I can help you out with that. And so there were a lot more ideas, a lot more collaboration when we came back to these things this time. But allowing these challenges into action plans was really valuable this year.
And I think that the teachers also were appreciative of the fact that we wanted to address what it was that they were struggling with, not to just say, oh yeah, that's a problem, but let's move on, and to go back and visit that. So I think that we
One
just
good example when we
gave them the
consultants
chance to struggling with, so that we were all working together on
was
this.
in going around and very specifically how to manage this productively in a classroom was a very common thing in early childhood when she said, what happens when children's ed? And this is a problem in early childhood when you walk into a classroom and you see kids running around and you see, not a lot of engaged learning. What do you really do as a teacher then? And answers from our staff. And this was a big topic, curriculum. We know better how to address it as to investigate this top. Another good topic for us this year is what is worthy of study? What is worthy of bringing into our classrooms and study? In long children's interests, but there's also a lot that has to do with, is it worthy? Do we have the resources for it? Here at the university, we're very, very blessed with many, many resources on campus. How do we bring those out? Well, here the teachers were having to brainstorm together about dogs. If we needed to do a topic on dogs, what would children want to know about dogs? We pulled out our benchmarks and we compared what we would want to know with benchmarks. Did those two things align? And so going back to aligning our standards with our curriculum, this really helped all of us get a better grasp on, in doing that, in a long-term investigation, how does that look? What is that going to be like? There was really a strong relationship between our diagram of what areas need to be supported by our stakeholders and the work that we did together. So going back to developmentally appropriate practices of our standards and our curriculum and assessment, teachers, I think, were much more able to see how it is that the work that we do every day in planning and in assessment, how those things fit into those 4 areas.
And I think the other point was this graphic that Beth put together. The graphic we had previously with the circles in the Venn diagram had the stakeholders behind all of these 4 areas, behind our philosophy, our DAP, our standards, and our curriculum. In this one, the stakeholders are now are in the front, which basically for me graphically helps me understand that they're not so much in the back of it, they are part of this whole series of making these connections. And this graphic has just really helped me put that into perspective. And I appreciate Beth organizing this graphic this time. Okay, what we'd like to talk a little bit now is we always spend a lot of our time on children's reflections. And so we also wanted to we wanted to also let our staff know that reflections are important as well. So part of our staff development gave us a chance to do some reflections on
In really looking at some of the outcomes of this for us is we've seen teachers becoming more intentional in planning curriculum, more intentional in living curriculum with children, and really more intentional in assessment. This photo is of a classroom of 3 to 5-year-olds that went over to visit our baseball bleachers, our new baseball bleachers that were being set up. This has been going on for the last few weeks. But as the children stood there and watched the work, pens and paper and their clipboards, which they will typically carry around with them in case there is such an experience going on, and they want to be able to represent that on paper. But you'll see the 4-year-olds work over to the right-hand side of the worker and the measuring line and the rocks. And this is an example of what is really, really valuable to assess, because if you can imagine all the new language that can come out of this and the deep and rich conversation that can come out of this and be brought back into the classroom and be continued through representing what the workers were doing. And all of a sudden, children are asking questions about units of measurement. And those are the things that we really want to capitalize on. Down below, we added the state learning standards that were very definitely demonstrated through this, demonstrating a beginning of understanding of measurement using non-standard units and measurement words, and identifying community workers and the services they provide. We knew very clearly through that experience that standards were being met, but there was some really, really rich learning that it's difficult things in the classroom and have happen. So we want our teachers to be intentional in where they go on campus and in the outdoor walks and in bringing those things back into the classroom. And that has been a really wonderful thing for all of us to experience together. And also in reflective practices for us, as we're able to take a piece of children's work and put it into a portfolio. You'll see an example over on the right side here of children's portfolios. And these were the books that contain all the children's works and different forms of assessment from the teachers. This is Campbell's drawing. At age 4, she was asked what she's thankful for. And she said, "Thank you, Jesus, for my mom and my daddy and my brother, my papas and my grandma too. I have 2 papas and 2 grandmas." And we really know from her quote here that she has a very clear understanding of what family means for her. So many times taking dictations of children's words is an incredibly meaningful thing for us to do. But these reflective practices, it really gives us insight as to how the child perceives things, but it allows us to do further planning, and it allows us to do further assessment. So through these experiences, we've been very thankful that we've had some wonderful consultants come in, but we've been very thankful that we are really, within a staff that is willing to put the work into these things and continue learning. We're very blessed with what we have. We've become a much closer staff through this, and I think each of us recognizes we're lucky to be where we are, and we see a lot of staff members really wanting to give back to their jobs through this.
Sorry. All right, Kay, sorry. All right, Sue. Let me go back real quickly. About the reflection piece us as administrators that Beth and I are doing, and I apologize for not the sound. We wanted to encourage the teachers to be more intentional in their teaching. And so in order to do that, we gave them the ownership of that. We supported them in their prep time, and we also communicated to parents that the work that they saw were definitely from the teachers. We wanted to make sure that we celebrated their conversation together as a team to show people what we can do. I had typed a sentence that I want to leave with you here, and I know that the sound has been a problem, and I apologize for that. But if we encourage our teachers and our staff to be more intentional in their teaching, as administrators, I think we need to be more intentional in the professional development that we give them. And so we want to thank you, and we applaud all of you for all the work that you're doing and your efforts with working with young children and pursuing staff development. And our Beth's email address and my email address is there. And if there's any questions, and I know the sound is an issue, we are here to be typing. And if you have a question, we'll definitely do the best we can to answer that. But please contact us with any questions or any things that you have anything.
Thank you, Doris and Beth. Fantastic, just fantastic practice that we had a chance to hear, and stay for a few minutes to see if there are any questions that we need answering before we leave.
There are multiples. that this could be posted so for us to view. All right.
People typing.
Learning and potential teachers. Cheryl has a good point there. I think I got an article on intentional teaching and what does that actually mean, and how do we communicate that to teachers? We know that they're in their classrooms doing what they're doing, but if there's the reason of what they're doing, why they're doing, and how they're doing it is all incorporated into their planning, then
Cheryl also is focused on the things that you asked about. Some of the other authors that I don't believe are listed there that we did take a lot of specific things from would be Marzano, Green, and Holcomb, and I'm happy to send those to you.
yeah. Oops.
And this will be posted on the
Uh,
Lutheran School portal for your viewing also.
on, I can't even type. Um, also, oops. Mhm.
A question on the sound. Perry is probably the best consultant for sound on the Lutheran School portal when you view it.
Um, I spell Skype, S-K-Y-P-E. Beth? Skype, S-K-Y-P-E. Yeah. That's Skype conferencing. Just made that up. Um, like oh, no sound.